Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel and welcome to a brand new series. I'm delighted to say that this is a special one. Each and every episode, I'm going to be getting a new guest on to have a look at their first initial drafts and team reveals for the upcoming Premier League season. We're going to be putting their teams player by player into Fantasy Football Hub's brand new My Team tool. And that is going to spit out a rating for us at the end, which is going to allow us to see which teams are better than others. Now, if you want to go down and have a look at this yourself, it's an amazing tool, completely free, link down below, and it will tell you just how your team's looking come game week 1. But yeah, I'd like to say that I'm joined by FPL Heisenberg, aka Wes, for his initial team reveal. This is a man who has come in the top 30k 7 times over the course of Fantasy Premier League's history and has a top finish inside the top 1,000. Very special stuff. Wes, aka FPL Heisenberg, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Excited to have you on. Excited to see your team. We're going to get a lot of people's first initial team reveals on this series. And what we're going to do is going to pit them against each other and have a look, according to the My Team tool, who has the best team rating. So Wes, are you ready to go? Do you have your initial draft set up? Obviously a long way out from the start of the season, but you got a team ready?
I have indeed. And like you said, yeah, we should carry out that by its start. You know, it's very early doors. There's no real pre-season to go off. We don't know all the signings, all the ins and outs, but as of right now, I'm pretty happy with the team. And I'd say overall, I'm very happy with the structure of it. And I also haven't actually run it through my team on purpose for this video. I want to see what score I get at the end of the video. I want to be surprised by it.
Well, there we go.
Let's hope I get a good score.
Here it is. The brand new My Team looks absolutely spectacular. What we're going to do, we're going to plug in Wes's players position by position. And at the end, as you can see up here, we're going to have a team rating and a game week rating. And yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. Wes, let's kick things off with your first player.
Nice one, mate. So should we do both keepers?
Yeah, let's go for it. Whatever you want. You can do whatever order you like.
I've gone for Pickford and Areola as my two goalkeepers. Again, Areola's a bit of a placeholder for whatever 4.0 goalkeeper I feel is the best, closest to the game week 1 deadline. As of right now, kind of feels like maybe Areola's got a chance of nailing down the West Ham #1 slot over an aging Fabianski, but who knows, maybe he hasn't. And like I said, come closer to the start of the season, that can be changed for any 4.0 keeper if a better one emerges. We had some decent ones last season, didn't we, with the likes of the Leicester boys both being 4.0. I remember that was fairly popular at the start of the season. Iverson and Ward. Obviously, Jason Steele at Brighton was a 4 million goalkeeper who did very well towards the end of the season for myself as well. So there could be some value there. But as of right now, I've got Areola. And then my keeper who will play week in, week out, assuming that with 4.0 keepers, I'm assuming they're actually not going to play. So I've got Pickford in as my other goalkeeper as just what I feel is potentially the best 4.5 at this point in time. Their opening fixtures are fairly decent. Fulham and Wolves at home in their first 3 game weeks, along with Villa away, then Sheffield United away. So it's not a bad start. But again, I'm not really set on that position. So people will be in the comments saying Pickford's this, Pickford's that, which is fine. I'm not married to Pickford at this stage. It's just a 4.5 and a 4.0 goalkeeper to have that structure in place. That's ideally what I want to get out of my keepers. 8.5 spend.
That's the thing. It's clear you're not going to go for the rotation strategy. You decided on that. Just get a good solid keeper in and see how it goes. Pickford has some good fixtures, and as you can see here, pretty solid predicted points. Nothing special, but he's a 4.5 million goalkeeper. What can you really expect?
With rotations, I'm not against rotations, and often they will pop up with even, again, we'll take Danny Ward as an example last year. I can't remember. I started with Ward and another 4.5 keeper. Maybe it was Raya, maybe it was Sanchez from Brighton, who was the #1 at the time. So if that happens, if a 4.0 goalkeeper is playing, if Areola is playing, I will play him in the easier fixtures for sure. I will be happy to do that. But assuming there is no 4.0 goalkeeper who starts, I will just be happy to, play Pickford week in, week out. He has a tough fixture, at home against Arsenal in game week 5. Will he get a clean sheet in that one? Probably not. But even when you wrote, you can find these perfect pairs who rotate perfectly keepers wise, and it never really, on paper it looks good. In the reality, it never really works out. You have to be quite lucky for it to actually fall how it should on paper. So this sort of saves the annoyance of just having that, and it also saves a bit of money. You could go for 4.5 million goalkeepers, but that sacrifices a very valuable 0.5 million, which shouldn't be underestimate the importance of that extra cash.
Okay, then that's the keepers. Let's move on. Where do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I've gone for Trent, who is nicely, in my opinion, priced 8 million. I think that makes it less of a no-brainer. There is an argument for going without him. If he came in at 7 million, he would just be 100% owned, I'm sure. But 8 million actually, it makes it a difficult decision. But assuming he is going to play that sort of hybrid defensive, right back / central midfield role, or maybe move into midfield, who knows? think he's almost, I don't want to say must have, but yeah, we know how he ended last season really, really strongly. We know his pedigree over the last 4 or 5 seasons, whatever it is. So yeah, I just like Trent, and he's kind of been put into this team without a lot of in-depth looks into it. I just feel like I want Trent and I want to get him in so I can build a team around it. I don't want to build a team with a load of cheap defenders. You could build a really strong front eight with cheap defenders in, come closer to game week 1. If you decide you do want Trent, then you're going to have to sacrifice elsewhere the things you've built. So in order to build a draft that I'm happy with, I want to get those expensive players, one expensive defender, one expensive midfielder, expensive forward or whatever. And then it makes it easier to build. Haven't explained that well, but it's more of a structure thing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that your main point there is that Trent's just a great player that you want in your team, which is just completely fine. Yeah. Of course, you can come down from him to any price point, but the fixtures look good. The predicted points, there's a lot of green there. It may not get loads of clean sheets, but as we saw towards the back end of last season, he doesn't necessarily need clean sheets to accrue some very solid points.
And I'm basing this assumption on Liverpool improving as a team defensively this season, and therefore clean sheets improve. Obviously, they had a real down season by their standards, didn't they? If they can get back to their high standards, then we should see some clean sheets to go with those attacking returns. And the good thing with Trent is, if it is a boring 0-0 game, he often just sweeps at the bonus, and therefore it's not a 6-pointer, it's a 9-pointer. If he does get any form of attacking return, even if it's just 1 assist, again, he's very good on the bonus. So it just adds up quite nicely there.
Sure. Okay. Who have you got next?
So I've got a Stupinian in, who I think will be a popular pick. And that is, if he came in at 5.5, he wouldn't necessarily be in. But I've gone through and I've tried to find players I think are actually good value. And a Stupinian's a really, really attacking defender. He stung me towards the end of last season because I had Jason Steele. I couldn't actually have a Stupinian, and he went crazy in, I think against Arsenal away.
It was against
really
Arsenal.
Random. Yeah.
Go on assist.
I was expecting him to, just to not do anything spectacular in that game. And he, just killed me. And I had him for a certain stage of last season as well. Really attacking, seems to be pretty nailed on. And again, I'm sort of assuming that carries on this year, hopefully. His opening fixtures are really good as well. Luton at home, Wolves away, West Ham at home. They're 3 teams you'd probably expect to be in the bottom 10 this season. Maybe not, but you know what I mean? They're good fixtures, aren't they? So yeah, I don't think you can really go wrong there. And we all know how well Brighton did, the second half of last season in particular. So yeah, Stupinian's a really good pick at just 5.0.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be in my team, no doubt about that. So attacking. A really fun player to own as well when you're watching the games. Yeah. Okay, next up, who have you got?
I'll go for my 2 4.5s together. Yep. Again, these might rotate based on the ease of the fixture. So I've gone for Matty Cash from Villa, 4.5, attacking-ish, not got a amazing attacking threat. Hopefully he can improve that. I know he was injured for certain stages of last season, but he's only 4.5. That could easily be a Villa defender. It could be Pau Torres, for example. Where possible, I do like to pick the fullback. They are usually more attacking. Not always the case. Obviously, we get defenders, coming up from corners, scoring from set pieces, that sort of thing. But yeah, Cash, 4.5. And I've gone for Rico Henry for another 4.5 from Brentford. So yeah, 2 teams who finished in the top 10 last year, 2 solid teams, settled with their managers, feel like they can be a reliable source of points for that cheap price point, and they can rotate relatively nicely. Again, I haven't analysed in depth how well these 2 rotate because I'll more than likely change my mind on one of them come the start of the season. However, I like them both as picks as of right now. I'd be happy to start the season with them if it comes to that.
And in terms of a structure, having those 2 4.5s rotating, is that something that you're set on? Or is in terms, because as you're saying, that the players themselves could change. There's obviously a lot of 4.5s, the likes of Botman, another Aston Villa player in there that could spring up. But in terms of that structure, are you quite set on that?
I am relatively set on that, and it means you've just got a really decent first sub.
Yeah.
So at the minute, Henry would be my first sub, for example. If any one of my starting 10 outfield players get injured or randomly misses out, we don't hear about, I don't mind him coming in. He's got some attacking threat. We saw that last year.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't quite get the attacking returns when I was watching him, because I owned Pinnock for a lot of last season, but when I was watching Henry, he had the greater sort of assist threat from open play.
Yeah.
The likes of Pinnock, maybe a bit more goal threat from set pieces, but that structure is exactly bang on. I do this virtually every season. You have that expensive premium defender, you have that sort of next level down, whether that be a 5.0 or 5.5. Like we've got the Stupinian there. And then I tend to have a couple of 4.5s who are decent that you can rely on. It gives you that rotation possibility. It gives you that decent first sub. And then I have a 4.0 defender, which this year at the minute, again, it's not set in stone. If a better one emerges, it's a simple swap before the season starts. But it's Bell from Luton. I did a bit of a joke tweet from my account about Bell, which we won't repeat on this channel.
I think we can all imagine what that may well have been. Yeah. Twitter's on screen, by the way.
Yeah, it was a very easy joke to make, but I had to make it. But I tried to get in there before anyone else did. But again, in a serious point, he did actually start. I think it was 44 championship games out of the 46 last season, something like that. Either way, last season anyway, he was nailed in the championship. Will he be nailed this season? I don't 100% know, but assuming he's just going to play games, I won't choose to start him any week, but it's always nice if you can find a 4.0 defender who starts games. That's all you really want. It's very rare that you actually get that. Lundstrom happens once every. Lundstrom was a complete anomaly, an attacking.
I mean, he wasn't even a defender.
Down as a defender, 4 points. Yeah. Whereas normally you get the likes of a Wan-Bissaka at Palace 1 year was 4.0, and he was just nailed on. Occasionally got a clean sheet. Happy days. That's what you want from someone like Bell at Luton. Most of the time he's going to get a 1-pointer, a 2-pointer, and then occasionally he'll get a 6-pointer, and you might get lucky in those weeks where he does get a random clean sheet. Maybe he'll come into the team for you. So yeah, that's my thinking there. And again, structure-wise, it's just about having that 4.0 in place. I'm not spending hours of my time right now finding the best 4.0 defender. By the time game week 1 turns out, I'm fairly confident I'll have what seems to be the best 4.0 on paper in my team. Like last season, I remember pre-season, it was likes of either Patterson or Nico Williams. I think I might have started off with Patterson, which would have probably been the wrong decision. I think Nico Williams would have been the better choice. So hopefully this season I can get the best 4.0, because someone like Nico Williams and Patterson at stages last season at least had a little bit of attacking threat as well. So you can sometimes find a little gem in that price point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you say, 4 weeks out from the start of the season, it's not imperative to nail down these less important players. Guys, that's the defense done. As I've already mentioned, if you want to do this yourself and put your team in as it stands and have a look at the predicted points and the potential outcomes of your team and where you may be able to improve, link is down in the description, completely free to do it yourself. Okay, then, let's get into the midfield, Wes.
Yeah, I'm excited about the midfield and the forwards now. Much more exciting picks now. So I'll do it from cheapest to most expensive, maybe.
Go for it.
They're all fairly mid-priced, actually. But yeah, I'll go for Eze as my first pick.
Okay.
Again, ended the season really well last season. Was that just a purple patch that he won't sustain this season? We all defensively figured Palace out a little bit more now and how Eze plays, etc., etc. But obviously, ended the season really well, got his England call up, should kick on again. I don't think him and Vieira maybe got on, or he didn't play as much under Vieira for whatever reason, but I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying, I remember when I think I bought him in for a week, or I was looking at him towards the end of last season, and under Hodgson, he played 90 minutes in every single game. He played every minute available, essentially. Like I said, maybe I can't remember what happened in game week 38 very well, but my point is he's very nailed on and just played superbly. And again, he's not a player that's necessarily nailed on in my team. It's a price point pick. People in the comments will be looking at him saying, why not go for Mbomo from Brentford or one of the Brighton midfielders? And I totally get that. And I might change my mind by game 1. But yeah, I don't think we should I wanted to highlight a player like Eze as well, because he might not necessarily be, a lot of people will have Matoma in already. And, the videos on Hub will have people talking about Matoma. Let's talk about someone like Eze who could equally do well and fly under the radar like he did for most of the end of last season. Yeah,
I just got his stats up on screen from the end of last season. From game week 30, he was averaging 7 points per appearance. And I remember he was a big bandwagon in 38 and got unlucky not to get any returns. So yeah, when Hodgson came in, as you said, it really, really started to do well. So yeah, definitely interesting pick that could be a little bit of a differential at the start of the season, because there are so many similarly priced midfielders.
Yeah, and I wonder who's on penalties for Palace. Again, I'm not sure if that's maybe a Palace fan in the comment section can let us know about that. Because, I mean, I guess it could be Eze. Zaha might be leaving as well. So if Zaha does leave, I guess that's then extra responsibility on the likes of Eze to get those goals and assists rather than just play well and not get those attacking returns. I think it will be on his shoulders to get the goals, get the assists, because often with Palace as well, their number 9 doesn't tend to chip in with that many goals. Again, could all change the season, of course. But yeah, I like Eze as a pick.
Okay, who have you got next?
Let's go for my double Arsenal midfield. If you want to do 2 at a time, Martinelli and Saka.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, obviously the fixtures: Forest at home and Fulham at home in their first 3. Palace away, and they've also got Everton away in week 5 as well. So really good, strong opening 5 fixtures, I'd say. Obviously, they fell off towards the end of last season, but they had an incredible season last year. They've strengthened this year with Rice coming in, Timber coming in at the back. Who else? I forgot. Havertz, of course.
Yeah. Is that strengthening though? That's my question as a Chelsea fan. But nonetheless,
they've lost Xhaka, haven't they? Which
yes.
I think people are underestimating what big miss that will be for the overall performance of the team, which obviously can then impact FPL players. But if Havertz can come in and take the Xhaka position, maybe Chelsea will play him out of position, lack of confidence. Maybe we'll see a new Havertz. That remains to be seen. But I think from an FPL point of view, with Martinelli and Saka, even with those unanswered questions, I'm hoping that those, the returns they got, and I feel like Martinelli's slightly underpriced maybe because in fact Martinelli was in my draft before Saka was. Most people would say Saka's nailed on for them, which I get, but if I had to pick one midfielder for that price saving, you do get the penalties for Saka, and maybe I'll look stupid after 5, 6 game weeks saying this, but I do feel like Martinelli, he pretty much matched Saka pound for pound last season. He's coming a little bit cheaper. And if it wasn't for the penalty thing, penalties didn't exist or whatever, I'd say Martinelli was the better pick over Saka. Penalties is such a big thing though, of course, so we can't overlook that, which is why it makes Saka a great pick as well, which is why part of the reason why I've got both.
Yeah, it's interesting. Per appearance, Martinelli actually got more points last year than Saka. Obviously had a bit of time out with injuries, but ended the season so well. Let me just bring up his stats here just so we can have a look. But from game week 30 to game week 38, 5 points per appearance, doing really well. Now, the interesting point here is not the fact that you've gone with Arsenal players. I think a lot of people will have Arsenal players and attackers in general in their team, given their amazing fixtures and the fact that they are one of the best teams in the league. It's that you've gone with Martinelli and Saka ahead of Odegaard, who got more points than them last season. Why is that? Yeah. Why are you choosing to omit Odegaard from your team?
I'd say it's not a decision to omit Odegaard. It's just the fact that I can't have them. You could go for that triple midfield, of course, but I don't want to have them all.
Yeah.
Gone for Martinelli and Saka. I'd happily have Odegaard for sure. He was a great asset last year and seems to just pick up points in at times where we wouldn't necessarily expect it, or wasn't in that many people's teams. Sort of flew under the radar at certain stages, or I didn't quite catch his points when I did have him last year. I don't think very well. But yeah, I'd say if anyone out there is wanting to pick Odegaard and is thinking of changing because of my decision, don't, because Odegaard is equally as good a pick as those two, and time will tell. Maybe he will outperform them. So yeah, I haven't got a legitimate reason for omitting Odegaard. It's not the case of omitting him. It's a case of not being able to. I'd happily have 10 midfielders this year. They're also a lot of them are so appealing. So yeah, if you're Arsenal midfielders Odegaard this year, do not change because of what I've currently got. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see who your final two midfielders are. I mean, so as you say, so many potential options in midfield that are all very legitimate picks. Let's get to those midfielders.
Yes.
Then.
So one of them is Bruno Fernandes, which I am really.
Yeah, I love it.
This is one of the positions where I'm really actually struggling with in terms of I'm going back and forth in my head. I really want him. He's really, there's part of me saying that he's underpriced. He's coming way, too cheap. So I want to jump on that potential. But then you've got Rashford at only 0.5 more expensive. And then you've got the likes of someone like Mount coming in. Does that mean Mount's going to take some of the right-footed crossing free kicks, some of the right-footed shooting free kicks, some of the right-footed corners?
Yeah.
Away from Bruno, which obviously dents him a little bit. But Bruno is a great asset in his own right as well. But like I said, with Rashford only 0.5 more, does it make more sense for me to find that 0.5 and go for Rashford instead of Bruno? It potentially does. So I'm really on the fence about Bruno. But he's in my current draft and I've got to back him. So yeah, I do think he's a good pick with decent opening fixtures as well. A couple of tricky away fixtures in the first four, but a couple of decent home fixtures. So yeah, mixed bag of fixtures. I think I mainly put him in because I just feel like he's underpriced. If he'd have come in just 0.5 more at 9 million, the same as Rashford, Rashford would be in my team right now, and I wouldn't even be thinking about Bruno probably. But when you find players who are underpriced, it is a good idea to get them. And I guess it's safe to assume Bruno's still on penalties, I'd imagine.
Well, we're not 100% sure, but exactly. It's likely that he will be on penalties, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, because I seem to remember he kept them last year, even with Rashford scoring a lot of goals. I think Rashford took one just to break some sort of Old Trafford record.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he was on some, even with Rashford on his purple patch, I think Rashford wanted penalties, but Bruno remained on them. Again, in the comments, if you know more on that, let us know. Because, yeah, you do have to factor in penalties. I don't think that penalties, just a quick point on penalties, actually, we put a lot of, myself included, a lot of emphasis on them. We do, and rightly so. However, I don't think they are as big of a thing as they were. Was it 2 seasons ago when the crazy handball rule just meant that penalties would get given left, right, and centre, and VAR was intervening a lot more. So soft penalties were being given. VAR intervenes a lot less now, and the handball stuff is a bit different. So yeah, I think everyone had less penalties, didn't they, last season compared to the season before? So there's less weight on them, but there is still weight on them, of course, because look at players like McAllister last season at Brighton. If he wasn't on penalties, he just isn't an FPL asset, really. If you look at the amount of goals and assists he got, it would have been minuscule without those penalties. The penalties hugely bumped up a play like that. And if Man United, who used to historically get a lot of penalties with their tricky wingers, with the likes of Rashford getting fouled for penalties, if United over the course of the season get 6-7 penalties, and Bruno takes and scores them all, it's such a big swing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's such a big bump to his points potential. So yeah, we can't ignore the fact that someone is on penalties. But yeah, if like I said, if you're looking at this and thinking, why has he got Bruno? He should have Rashford. That's an absolutely valid opinion. But with the team I built, I couldn't actually physically change Bruno to Rashford in one move. I'd have to find a little bit of money elsewhere, of course.
I think I completely agree with you. I think Bruno's a great pick, one that I'd love to have in my team. One of the reasons why he might be at the price that he's at is because FPL tend to price players just pretty much along the same sort of guidelines of, okay, how many points did they get? Therefore, they should be in this bracket. And what I brought up here, which you guys can do on the website, on Fantasy Football Hub, link down below, is last 9 game weeks from game week 30, Bruno got 53 points. But as you can see, his expected points here sitting at 72.5 really underperformed based on, well, I don't know if it was him underperforming, but compared to what we expected him to get over the end of the season. I don't know if you remember, Wes, but you know, he created so many big chances that his teammates were missing, got really unlucky, a couple of woodworks in there, didn't really get that many penalties, despite the fact that in previous seasons he's had so many. I mean, when he first came in, I think he got about eight penalties or something. It was unbelievable. So that really could flip. So I think he's a great pick.
And can you remember not Forest away? Man United when they played Forest away last season.
That game was unbelievable.
He was hitting the bar. It was I think he blanked that game, and it was unbelievable how he blanked. His expected points for that game, I don't know if I can't remember if that can be checked on Hub for an individual game, but it would have been through the roof. So yeah, absolutely that. And I guess, and again with Man United, it's such early days now, so don't fret over your team too much, and definitely don't get married to players either. So for example, Bruno, if they sign a top class centre forward, that makes Bruno more appealing because he is setting up the centre forward for loads of chances that Weghorst wasn't converting, that Martial isn't the type of striker who's going to necessarily convert a load of chances from Bruno, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't look likely at the minute. But if they somehow get Harry Kane, for example, Bruno, I'm almost certain, will get more assists by having Harry Kane in the team than he would have without. However, he might lose penalties if someone like Kane comes in. So you've got to weigh all that stuff up. So yeah, just a massive note to everyone to, yes, build your team, do drafts, don't do too many, don't get married to your players. So I'm not married to anyone we've listed so far. I'm not completely married to them. It all depends on preseason form, fitness, what transfers the club makes, etc., etc. So if Bruno has a centre forward he can assist, that's going to be beneficial for Bruno, as long as that player doesn't then take his penalties away. So it's like this seesaw. Yes, let's take Kane for an example. If he comes into United, Bruno's assist potential goes like that, but his goal potential comes down because Kane's going to almost certainly take the penalties off him. So yeah, always consider these out. You're not just thinking, is Bruno good at getting goals and assists? Yes or no. It's all those other questions you ask yourself and you've got to look at the whole pie, to quote David Brent. So yeah.
Okay then, so that's Bruno. Let's get on to your final midfielder then.
Final midfielder is Foden. And again, I'm not married to him, but I'm kind of, as of right now, my assumption is I believe De Bruyne. Again, the news I remember from the end of last season is Bruno's going to miss the start of this season.
De Bruyne, yeah, he will. De Bruyne. I think it's likely that he'll. So what people are saying is that he'll miss the start of the season, and Foden is the most likely to come into that 8 role or that 10 role, whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
which isn't necessarily true because I remember Alvarez took that position up a lot last season. So it's not necessarily true, but there's also rumours of Bernardo Silva leaving, things like that. Even rumours of Mahrez going to Saudi Arabia. So if something like that does happen, then the competition for those wing places, for that maybe attacking midfielder position or whatever, maybe diminishes slightly, which would be beneficial for Foden because Foden had injury issues post World Cup last year, like a quite strange injury. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it didn't help him. And then the likes of Grealish was in such good form, and Bernardo Silva on the other wing, and De Bruyne. It made it hard for him to get back into the team. Now you'd assume he would have a decent chance of getting back into the team because of how talented he is. If you cast your mind back to the start of last season, he was amazing then. I think he got a hat-trick against Man United, playing really well. I remember putting him in my team thinking, I don't really trust Pep with midfielders, but Foden's definitely nailed on. And then he just didn't play in the Prem, and Pep just purely used him in the Champions League and not the Prem. I remember in the run-up to the World Cup, he barely did anything. It was really frustrating. So yeah, I might dodge Foden for that reason again because of Pep. But yeah, I like how, and again, it's the fact that Foden's come in reasonably priced off the back end of a disappointing, if Foden would have absolutely smashed last season all season long, he'd have come in a lot higher. He's came in at less because of that injury. So again, it's more about looking at a player and thinking, you know what, I think he's underpriced and he has the potential to go big. But yeah, there's still a lot of question marks around Foden And if I can't answer them sufficiently by the game week 1 deadline, I will probably axe him if I am not if I'm not confident. If Bernardo Silva stays at the club, Mara stays at the club, if they sign another attacker, if De Bruyne's looking like he's almost fit, all that sort of stuff. If Alvarez is banging, maybe Alvarez plays in that De Bruyne role in a load of preseason games and he's just man of the match a few times or whatever, all those things would diminish Foden. Or likewise, if he has a strong preseason, if they sell players, whatever, that will then make Foden a more attractive option. So yeah, he's a very much wait and see come game week 1 deadline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, completely agree with all of that. It's those lack of minutes that we're not entirely sure about, which is why his predicted points are lower than you may expect from someone like a Foden. As you said, it can absolutely explode in this team. If we knew he was nailed on, there's no way that these predicted points would be as they are, which is, around the 4-point mark per game. But yeah, as you said, you got him in last year, just didn't play. And that can happen. You wouldn't be shocked if that was to happen again. But that is why his price is quite attractive and he's in your team. I'll be really interested to see if a player like Foden stays in your team come the start of the season where we have perhaps a bit more information on expected minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move on.
Just to reiterate, it all depends on that information that is so important for virtually every player in the team.
Yeah.
But it's less important for certain players that we know are just sort of nailed on. We know Trent's going to play for Liverpool, don't we? The stuff like that. We know Bruno Fernandes is going to play and blah, blah, blah. But with someone like Foden in particular, that preseason information is so important.
Speaking of nailed on, there is a big man in the Premier League that seems to be in a lot of people's teams. And I want to get straight to it. Is Haaland in your team?
He is, yeah. He just feels like, again, with captaincy being a part of FPL, it essentially means every week you have that one player becomes 2 players, doesn't it? Yeah. So you don't want to be going without the best captain in the game. And, an amazing season last year. There's nothing to suggest he can't do that again. He could even improve on it, because he gave some penalties away last season. He gave one to Mahrez, I remember. He gave one to Gundogan, who missed a few because obviously the league was wrapped up. I think he missed a couple of games towards the end of the season. He even got he was very, we all thought he was going to come here and be a bit injury prone after Dortmund, but he was actually managed quite well by City, wasn't he? And he only got that one injury maybe around Christmas time, was it? Where he was in the boot and all the pictures were flowing around socials. So yeah, I think he could even improve and go again. So yeah, I don't think you want to be going without Haaland. You try and be clever and you could think it's boring having Haaland because everyone has him and everyone has him captain, but can't fight the game like that. Imagine if you'd have done that last season and just thought, everyone's got Haaland, so I won't have him and I won't have him captain. You'd have just been impossible to do well. And you could have picked the best, you could have done the best strategy, played the bench boost perfectly, you could have had the best team, blah, blah, blah. But without Haaland, you'd have just been completely screwed over. So yeah, I don't need to talk about how great Haaland is. We all know that. And a quick shout out to Harry Kane, who isn't in this team at the minute. But that, again, depends on the preseason stuff. If he signs a new contract for Spurs today, commits his future to the club, the team's going to be built around him, then maybe I'll think, you know what, I'll change my mid-price forward, which we'll get onto in a minute, to the likes of a Kane, and I'll therefore go, I don't know, Bruno down to a real cheap midfielder. I don't know yet because I am a huge fan of Harry Kane. I think a mistake I made for a large portion of last season was not having him enough. I did have him in my team a few times, but I didn't have him enough maybe. And I just felt like I just sacrificed him too easily. I was like, right, I want Salah in midfield, so I'll sacrifice him. I'll sacrifice Kane for Salah, which sort of worked because Salah did well towards the end of last season, but Kane was just so consistent. And I think a lot of quote unquote casual managers were just like, why would I take out Harry Kane? He's amazing. He's scoring goals. I'll just leave him in. Yeah. I don't want to ignore Kane, but then very hard to obviously have Haaland, Kane, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see about that. And again, it depends on him tying down his future to Tottenham. If he doesn't do that, if the Bayern Munich thing's hanging over his head, then we can kind of relax with Kane out the league and not have to worry about that dilemma, because it was a dilemma for me last season. How would you keep him in your team? How would you get the other big hitters? Is he worth the money? Because he's ticking along, getting 1 goal a game. Is that worth it? When we had Ivan Toney doing similar, we had Mitrovic doing similar at certain stages, etc., etc. So you could do well without Kane. That makes sense, but you could also do really well with him. He's at a price hike this year, but last season he was the same as Kane, wasn't he? If you remember, they both started 11.5, whereas this season he's 12.5 and Haaland's 14. So is there an argument of having Kane as your captain every week, not having Haaland, saving 1.5 million? From what I said, obviously a couple of minutes ago, I'd say there's not an argument for that, but maybe someone else could make that argument and could make it work. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think for one second anyone's saying that he's a bad pick.
Yeah,
or that he wouldn't be straight in a lot of people's teams if we could afford him. 39 goal involvements last season, just not really a consideration. It's pretty crazy, but yeah, Haaland, you can see the difference in predicted points here, and he starts so well as well historically. Last season we saw it. That's the time of the season when the league is completely up for grabs. There are no other cup games or Champions League games. He's
Yeah.
unlikely to get rested as much at the start of the season, completely fresh. Look at these predicted points. Everything above 8. Crazy.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, just to reiterate that. So for me, it would be my dilemma. I guess preseason would be: do I go for Haaland and Kane,
Yeah.
or do I just go for Haaland?
But
It's
Haaland
not a
nailed.
case of Haaland's nailed, and then do I find the money for Kane and have two expensive forwards? The answer, definitely a real strong consideration and possibility. A lot of these budget midfielders, again, if they're looking really good in preseason and they become more viable, then maybe I chop out a Martinelli to a 5 million midfielder. I chop down a Bruno to a 6 million midfielder, or whatever I might do. There is ways to find money because the forward I'm going to speak about after Haaland is an 8 million forward. So that would only be a 4.5 million jump. It's not impossible by sacrificing a bit of money. Do I sacrifice Trent as well to fund Kane? Again, it's a possibility and it could be a good shout.
Okay, let's get to that 8 million forward then. I'm pretty confident I know who it is, but
Really?
reveal.
Okay, I don't think you'll get it. So it's Ollie Watkins.
Really? Oh wow. Well, that has shocked
Who's you
me.
thinking?
Wow,
Who's
I
you
was
thinking?
thinking of Gabriel Jesus. That is
No,
fair enough.
I like Watkins. He did really well since ever since Emery came in. Villa as a team did really well. The opening fixtures are okay. It's Newcastle away game week 1, which isn't great, but who knows how that will go. They were leaking goals a little bit more towards the end of last season, weren't they? Then it's
Yeah.
Everton at home and Burnley away. 2 fixtures you'd class as decent fixtures. And then it's Liverpool away and Crystal Palace at home. So out of those first 5, it's reasonably decent. Someone like Gabriel Jesus could be a decent option, of course. Lots of other strikers could be. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation, but Chelsea's forward,
Nkunku.
help me out. Nkunku. Again, I think there's some talk about him. Again, as a Chelsea fan, you might know a little bit more. There's some talk about him being on penalties. He's 0.5 cheaper as well. So should I need an extra 0.5, I would be happy to lose Watkins.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not married to Watkins, but I do think he's a great pick and worth speaking about and worth considering in that price bracket with the decent fixtures and with Villa's, because we see Villa as a team who comes 7th in the league. And I'm not saying they're going to necessarily kick on and get Champions League football because that's obviously very difficult with the competition in the Premier League. But if we look at all these form tables kept coming up, didn't they, about since Emery started, Villa would be in position X, Y, and Z if we only counted points from, accumulated since then. They were like top 3 teams all the time, defensively and attacking. And we saw Watkins, just look amazing for a long period. I know Watkins, again, he did tail off and he is a bit of a purple patch player, which is why if I don't end up with him in my team, it's not a huge deal. Definitely one worth considering, I think, at 8 million.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that shocked me. Wasn't expecting you to go for that, but absolutely love it. And yeah, he had that amazing run, didn't he, where he was scoring pretty much in every game, scoring in every away game as well for a long period of time, which was very impressive.
Yeah, he was really good. Like I said, I can't remember when he tailed off. I think it worked out quite well for a lot of people because I think there was Haaland who was maybe going to be injured just for one game. And I think what I did Haaland to Watkins, and then the following week I brought Haaland back in for another forward, something like that. And Watkins did really well for that period. But yeah, like I said, I think he had a fairly quiet last 5 or 6 weeks. I can't fully remember. But yeah, I just think under Emery, he's, and again, it's little things that I see that I take note of, like in interviews where he's saying that, pre-Emery, he was running into channels and chasing down lost causes to like win his team a throw in, like, or whatever. Whereas now he's concentrating on staying, being a proper centre foot, like a goal scorer, essentially staying within the width of the area. Confidence levels had improved. His finishing seemed to have improved for whatever reason. Maybe it was confidence. Maybe he was working on it. And yeah, he seemed like he was because before he was a really good player for the team, doing a lot of the sort of donkey work, which isn't great for FPL because obviously you don't get points for that. But his mentality had changed. Speaking to the manager, they'd changed his role in the team to a more of a goal scorer rather than an overall forward who would just work really hard, sort of thing, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
things like that really beneficial. And again, with the penalties thing with Villa, who's on penalties, I don't know for sure. I'd say Watkins is in with a shout. Please, again, I'll read every comment on this video. So if you do know who the Villa penalty taker is, let us know.
Yeah, he's not very good at penalties, to be fair. So it's one of those. He's got a very bad.
Neither is Mitrovic,
No.
which is random to bring up. I just wanted to moan about Mitrovic because I had him for about 10 penalty misses last year and I still haven't forgiven him.
Right then, let's finish up this team. 4.5 left, so it's not going to be a starting player, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
Who have you got?
Exactly, yeah. So I've got Balogun from Arsenal with just the small possibility that he's potentially transferred to another Premier League team because he's obviously a decent player who can score goals, as he's proved in other clubs when he's been on loan from Arsenal. But yeah, obviously, if he stays at Arsenal, I won't waste an Arsenal slot on him. That's very important to note. Yeah, so come the end of the season, if he's just going to be in the Arsenal reserves, there's no way he's going to be in my team because it wastes an Arsenal slot and it's a player who isn't going to play. If he moves abroad, obviously I won't have him as well. But yeah, the 4.5 million forward option, bracket is obviously really poor anyway. And the only potential I really see is if someone like Cameron Archer from Villa somehow breaks into the first team, or if Balogun gets a move to a Premier League club. But a bit like what I was saying at the start of the video with my 4.0 defender, it's all about just having someone in position. It doesn't matter who it is right now. Come game week 1 deadline, if Balogun's looking like a good option, I keep him. If he's not, I swap him out to another 4.5 option. And at that point, if there is no good 4.5 option, I'll just choose one from a club that I'm very unlikely to want to triple up on. And then that player will just sit third on my bench because you're very unlikely to need your third bench player.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think he's got like 21 goals last season. I really hope that he does get a move to a lesser Premier League club, perhaps. I don't think he's the sort of player that's going to want to just sit on the bench or compete with Nketiah for the role of backup striker. But yeah,
exactly that. And if that does happen, it falls into the bracket of if he moves to a mid-table Premier League team or lower end one, and he can be one of those players who does get goals and assists for them at the rate of, I don't know, just like a mid-price forward, it kind of does break the game a little bit, because you almost got, say, a 6.5 million rated forward, but they're only priced at 4.5.
Yeah.
Because if Balogun was already in place at another club based on what he'd done, another Premier League club, and based on his previous goal scoring season last year, he would be priced higher. He's priced at that based on him being an Arsenal third choice striker. But if he's not, then he's definitely underpriced, and he's very much going to be in everyone's squad if that happens, I'm sure.
Okay, so that is the team done, and I've done it. I've put it up on screen. Last little bit of information you need to give us is who would your captain be for game week 1, and then who would you bench out of Cash and Henry for game week 1 as well?
Yeah, so let's have a little think about that. So I'd bench Henry.
So that's a tough one just off the start, isn't it? For who
it is a tough one.
Play.
Let's bench Henry.
Okay.
For the purpose of this, bench Bell, maybe second sub, and Balogun's third sub, based on that just being any 4.5 we probably won't play. And captaincy away at Burnley, it's got to be Haaland, hasn't it?
Yeah.
As of right now, you could make an argument for the Arsenal boys with Forest at home, of course. But yeah, I'm basing it off, if Haaland's going to be the same Haaland as last season, there needs to be a really good reason not to captain him. Like, Haaland needs to have an extraordinarily hard fixture, and then someone else who's equally on amazing form needs to have a really good fixture. But as of right now, yeah, Haaland.
Okay, so that is the team then. Team rating percentage. What do you think that's going to be, Wes?
Like I said, I haven't checked it, and I think people will beat my team rating percentage by playing a bit more of a safe team, a bit more of a template team, which is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I've got a couple of left field picks in there, so I'm going to go 89% is my guess.
Wow, that is a very good guess. So just to briefly summarize or explain what the team rating percentage is, this is an algorithmic AI-based rating that is automatic from Fantasy Football Hub, just looking at the players you've picked over a certain number of game weeks and giving you a score. Gives you a slight idea as to where your team might be. If it's a low team rating, there may be improvements there that you can make. But yeah, Wes, 90% team rating you've got here, so pretty bang on with your prediction. As you said, the likes of a Foden in there, Cash, game week 1, don't have the highest predicted points. We can see Eze there at only a 4.4. Definitely some players that have higher predicted points, but I like the fact that you've gone with a few little differentials that could be very fruitful come game week 1. And obviously this is a long way out from the start of the season. Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Like I said, other people will get much higher percentages, I'm sure. I've seen a load of screenshots fly around Twitter as well with some good teams, some good high percentages, 93s, 94s. But yeah, I'm happy with that, and I don't mind not coming first in this series. That's absolutely fine.
Well, you are the first name so I'm first today. The table. So as it stands, you're first, but you are also last. We'll have to wait and see where you end up come pre-season ending and game week 1. Who knows? Might get you back on later on to see what your updated team looks like. But one thing that I've got on screen right now, which is a new feature on the Hub this season, is this. It's recommended transfers. I want to get your thoughts on these. So what this is the Hub pretty much just looking at the numbers and saying, okay, like what you've got, but if you want to improve, perhaps these are some suggested transfers based on the algorithm, based on AI that you could have a look at. First set of recommended transfers, Wes, is Martinelli out to Rashford, Foden out to Mbeumo. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like it. And it shows how clever the algorithm is, because that is a very valid choice to make, especially with someone like with Ivan Toney out, and Mbeumo is probably going to have penalties, and the algorithm is going to factor that in. Rashford was obviously amazing last season as well. So yeah, these suggested transfers are really good. And I remember towards the end of last season, you'd look at it, and I was skeptical at first when it came out, because I thought, like, an algorithm can't really can't suggest good transfers, but it really was suggesting good transfers. And especially when it was ones I'd already thought of myself, it was quite like a wow moment. Like, this technology is getting extremely good. So yeah, I like it, and it's probably the smart move for the team I've produced. That those transfers make sense, and it would improve the overall rating and predicted points, because those boys will be predicted more points. So yeah, very good show. And like I said, I didn't use it pre-season last season, the recommended transfer tool, but like I said, during the season, it knows when you've used your free hit and stuff like that. So it can factor in all sorts of things. And some weeks it will suggest to save a transfer. You can even tweak it. You can lock certain players in, can't you? The algorithm might suggest taking out a certain player, but you're like, no, I really want that player. I'm going to lock him in. It will suggest something else. So yeah, it's fantastic. And even those transfers, like I just said, straight off the bat, they sound very good.
Yeah, if you don't like it, literally a button, recommend new transfer. If you don't want to sell a certain player, you can do exactly what you want here. Also, it's recommending that Watkins be replaced by Gabriel Jesus. The predicted points there are very similar, but that's why perhaps I was a little bit surprised by that shout. But yeah, I mean, that's more of a personal preference. So there you go. You guys watching right now, you can have a go at this yourself, as you've seen. Wes' team rating at 90%. Can you beat it? Link to do so is in the description. And yeah, if you're not quite at those high percentage numbers, then have a look at the recommended transfers here. All completely for free, by the way. And you may be able to improve that score. Now, after that, if you like what you see and you want to get a bit more information, some amazing articles from people like Wes revealing their team as preseason continues, then you can sign up. If you do so in preseason, then you get a 50% off deal, which is pretty incredible, if you ask me. So much information there on the website for you and tools that you can use across the season that will very much benefit your team. And if you don't win your mini league, Fantasy Football Hub are offering you all your money back, which I think is an absolutely unbelievable deal. Imagine that. You sign up, use all their stuff, and if you don't win your mini league, you just get your money back anyway at the end of the season. Where's thoughts?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Isn't that crazy?
Incredible offer. It is.
So it could, in effect, could be just for free. Amazing.
Just for free. Yeah, you get a lot of amazing access for free if you don't really meanly see it as an incredible offer this year that we're running again. Ran it last year, didn't we? So yeah, great offer, which is one that everyone should be taking full advantage of, really.
Yeah, there you go. Links down below, guys. Right, that is going to do it for episode 1 of the Team Reveal series. Come back, subscribe, turn notifications on, because we're going to be pitting new guests pretty much daily against Wes over the course of preseason and seeing where they end up in the table. That's going to do it from us. Thank you very much for watching. Wes, thank you very much for being the first guest on the series.
Cheers, guys.